We have this mythos in our country as a whole about how if you just are smart enough and work hard enough and you're a good person, then everything that you ever need will come to you, because that's the American dream. The first time that I remember being hungry, I was about 3 or 4. I know it was before elementary school had started. I was in Head Start. I already knew that there was a difference. Like when we went to the grocery store, we used food stamps, and that's when they used to put them in little packets, and they were all different colors for different amounts. And at that time, families had to pay a share of their food stamps, and so it wasn't completely paying for food. It was supplementing whatever your family's income was. And we didn't have money. It was the day that we were supposed to get our food stamps, and my mom didn't have money for it, neither did my dad. And my mom had to pick up the phone and start calling family members to see if people could chip in. And so I just remember how stressed she was. So that's the first time I remember that food wasn't a given. That was my earliest recollection, but I can remember several times where food was at issue, and there were times where I'd have this false sense that things were okay, and would revert to being a kid and not thinking about grown-up things. I remember summers being particularly hard. I remember spring break being particularly hard, or winter break being hard, because it was more pressure on the family and we didn't have school lunches or school meals to help get us through. I think the other time where things really shifted for me around hunger and how I ate and how I shared food was, I was probably about 6 or 7, and I'd been outside playing, and my mom had made a can of tomato soup for my 3 siblings and I. And we had some bread left, and she'd made some Parmesan toast. So I asked my mom for another piece of Parmesan toast because I was really excited about it and it was tasty, and she gave it to me. And halfway through wolfing it down, I looked up and looked at the table and looked at her and realized that she'd given me her lunch. And things really shifted for me after that in terms of how I paid attention to how food was shared in our family. I mean, we always were taught to be good sharers, but to really look at our needs as a whole family versus just what I wanted. When I was in elementary and middle school and we just had free food, that was great. When my mama went back to school and got a different kind of job and was making some money and we had to do reduced cost, I knew we didn't have money for that reduced fee. And I knew that I didn't want the shame and the stigma of trying to work that out with adults at school who may or may not understand. And so I just didn't have lunch. My parents were people who worked really hard and who cared a lot about parenting us well and loving us well and taking care of us. And they worked like most folks, like all families do, whether they have money or they don't. Everybody wants to protect their kids and give them the best life possible. And my parents are the same. And they really, really tried to buffer us from the hard and painful parts of being poor. It means that it was really hard for them to see us not have what they would want to give us, not have what any family would want to be able to give their children, right? And we're not talking like fancy things, just enough without worrying. My mama was a lay mental health provider, and she worked at the UNM day treatment program. And that was the step up from some of the jobs she had had before and some of the side hustles she had had to try to contribute to our family. And so one of the things that Roadrunner did was it actually provided services to folks who were participants in the day treatment program. And there was this beautiful relationship where people who were participating in the day treatment mental health services actually came and volunteered. I love that we normalize that we share and that we all do what we need to do to survive. And I think it's interesting how much in New Mexico we normalize not having sufficient resources to take care of ourselves and each other. It's starkly different from other communities I've spent significant time in. I think it's really important in ordinary times and in times of crisis to remember that the only thing that really makes our broken systems halfway function is the back-end nonprofit, philanthropic, and faith-based work that people are doing to feed each other. And while we work on policy change, we also have to work through those other mechanisms. We need to support organizations like Roadrunner to make sure that there's enough food for people when they need it. And not just as a thing that we do around the holidays, not just as a thing we do in times of crisis, but as a thing that we do every day, and we pay for it like we're paying our light bill. We take care of each other and we remember.